Hello and welcome to tonight's SANHS webinar. My name's Lizzie Induni and I'm the chair of SANHS. Tonight, Tony Harding will be talking about photographing old buildings in outdoor situations. Tony will share some tips and tricks which he's gained from his experience photographing buildings for various SANHS related and other projects. Tony is normally part of the webinar team, so we'll see how we do without him tonight. Tony spent his career as an engineer and project manager in the energy industry. He worked on everything from power networks, IT systems, telecoms, and business improvements. And it was while integrating an IT system into a 12th century former priory that he became interested in old buildings. And this coincided with his revival of interest in digital photography, having been a film enthusiast for many years. After finishing full-time employment, he got involved in a number of voluntary projects, one of which was the SANHS research on Dunster's early buildings. Well, as usual, Tony will take questions at the end of the talk, and to ask questions, you'll need to activate the chat button at the bottom of the page and type in a question. To find the button, just run your mouse over the bottom of a screen and you'll see the button there. Because this is a recorded lecture, it will go onto YouTube. We won't use names and question time. It's free to register for the talks, but a donation of £5 towards the ongoing costs of SANHS would be greatly appreciated. And the button will be put onto the donations page for the webinars. Please to make things easier, a link to the donations page will also be posted on the chat button at the end of the lecture. So over to Tony.
Thank you, Lizzie, and good evening, everybody. Yeah, as Lizzie said, tonight is going to be about outdoor situations, so building exteriors, and then we'll do another session, which is going to be in April of next year about interiors, indoor photography, and we'll probably end up in the dark and dusty world of roof spaces at that time. But for tonight, we're out in the great outdoors. I'm not intending to cover a lot of technical stuff about cameras and settings and exposures and all of that stuff. I'm guessing that a lot of people will already be quite familiar with that. And for anybody that wants to know more, I'll give some references at the end for some books and resources that can explain all that probably a lot better than I can. So instead, we're going to be concentrating on the subject rather than the camera, and looking at some techniques to really bring out the best in this rich sort of heritage of buildings that we've got around us. Most of the examples I'll be showing are sort of taken with a dedicated digital camera. So we're in the digital world, so camera like that. But it's not really sort of specific to any type of equipment, and the sort of techniques we're going to be looking at are equally relevant to smartphones, which have got increasingly capable cameras built into them, and indeed any enthusiast still enjoying the experience of film. So I'll just start the screen share and we'll get underway. Okay, Lizzie mentioned this sort of renaissance I had into digital photography a few years ago, and during that time I read a book by somebody who lectures in photography in the United States, and I was struck by something he said in there. He said when he starts a new group of students, he always starts with a question, and that question is, what is the most significant thing that you should be thinking about before you press the shutter button to take a photograph? And his answer was nothing to do with cameras and settings or composition or that. It was simply a question of, if we can move on here. Seem to be not advancing the slide. There we go. Question he posed is why? Why are you taking this photograph? And he went as far as to say if you can't answer that question, then don't take the photograph. So I guess we better have a go at answering that. Otherwise, this is going to be quite a short webinar. So why would we take photographs of buildings? And there could be a number of reasons. We might be, sorry, I'm having a bit of trouble with the buttons here. We might be interested in a building just as a piece of photographic art, if you like, something quite abstract, just exploring shapes and curves and triangles and patterns. And these are pictures that I took in Brighton. Brighton is a wonderful place for doing all this sort of abstract artistic stuff. We could be interested in what I would call urban landscape. This is a building, this is one of my very favourite buildings. This is a former draper's warehouse in Glasgow, and it's just love the texture and the toning in that building, and just it really looks like a building that's lived a life. And I think the graffiti there is adding some nice sort of social context, and there's a nice little bit of political context down the bottom. You can see some posters. This was took this, I think it was in about 2017, so it was not long after the Scottish independence referendum, and you've still got some campaign posters down at the bottom there, and it just sort of, I think, gives a nice context for that building. So that's sort of what you might call urban landscape. And then we've got what the main sort of emphasis tonight is going to be is photographing buildings as part of a sort of historic architectural and historic study of that building. So this is one close at home. Many of you will recognise Taunton Castle, home of Somerset Museum there. So we're going to be talking primarily about photographing those sort of buildings as part of a historic record, as a sort of building recording exercise. Having said that, I think these different styles I don't think they sort of exist in isolation. So you've got maybe you've got a spectrum where over here, at the left, you've got the sort of aesthetic, artistic sort of stuff. Over here on the right, you've got sort of more hard and factual documentary type of emphasis. And these things, I think, sort of exist on a spectrum. So maybe our sort of artistic stuff in Brighton is over at the sort of aesthetic end. Our building recording work is sort of over towards the documentary end, and maybe the sort of urban landscape is somewhere there in the middle. Having said that, these things don't exist in silos. So we're looking particularly, although we're looking specifically at building recording, we'll be looking at how some of those artistic traits from the other towards the left there can improve help to contribute to the effectiveness and the sort of quality of those building recording images. So let's look at in a bit more detail at our Taunton Castle image there. Just going to try and there we go. So let's look at what we could do to make that more effective as an image of that building. And one of the key considerations is time of day and position of the sun in the sky. So that picture was taken fairly early in the morning, 9:30 in the morning, back in July. And I will say I've not done, this is not part of an actual study of this building. So a lot of the images I'm using here are ones that I've taken really to demonstrate the sort of the techniques that we're talking about tonight. There are some that are actually taken from examples from real building recording projects. This was taken at 9:30 in the morning, and the sun is heading round towards the southeast. And the building is sort of facing pretty much south. And you can see it's kind of a picture of two halves. On the right hand side there, you've got that sort of east wing bathed in sunshine, and the west wing on the left there is pretty much in shadow, and the dividing line is sort of down the middle of the tower there. So can we do something that maybe brings out a bit more of the detail of that building? So this is 9:30 in the morning, so I thought let's go away and have a cup of coffee and come back in a while. So I've come back at 10 to 12, quite a long cup of coffee, and we can see a few things have changed. So the light has sort of hardened, so we've got a tree on the right there, and it's casting quite a hard shadow on the building now, which is, maybe quite nice artistically, but it's a bit of a distraction as a study of the building. We've got this the sun is sort of just oblique glancing along that sort of left-hand side, that western elevation there. And that's bringing out, you can see that's bringing out some nice detail in the stonework there. But we've got this rather ugly triangular shadow here, sort of just to the left of the tower. So let's go and have a spot of lunch and come back a bit later and see how it looks. So I've gone off and had some lunch, and long lunch again. I've come back at 2:20 and looking a bit different. The sun is sort of now just over my left shoulder, and we can see we've got nice even lighting across the whole thing now, and the sort of oblique sun on the sides of the tower here is really bringing out some texture, really sort of bringing the building to life a bit. You can see in all of these, I've been quite specific about where I'm standing. I've sort of adopted a very specific viewpoint, because I wanted to make sure that you could see these windows on either side of the tower, just as a hint that they're there, and a reminder that they're there, and that's part of the sort of makeup of that building. So that's looking a bit more useful to us. So let's go away and have a cup of tea and come back, and we've got now more or less the sort of mirror image of what we had mid-morning there. We've got this shadow on the other side of the tower now, and starting to lose some detail. And if I leave it a bit later, if I come back, this was at 6:30. The sun is sort of round in the west now, and it's pretty much gone. Not much use to us as part of a building study there. And quite dramatic, actually. It's if you wanted to get arty and render that in black and white, it's quite a dramatic sort of image, but it's sort of Game of Thronesy, but I say not a lot used to us as a building architecture study. So I think we're probably going to work with that one, really. It's quite a nice looking shot for us. There's a couple of things we notice. There's a boarded up window there, and if this was a shot that I was going to use for some promotion, or maybe put on a calendar or exhibit or something like that, I can, in the world of digital photography, I could actually mend that window digitally. It's quite easy to do. I've done that's a quick rough and ready job that I've done there, but with tools like AI, you could really make that look as if nothing had happened. But as a building study, I'm not going to do that. This is a historic record of that building at a moment of time at 2:20 or whatever it was on the 3rd of July. And at that time, that window was boarded up, and that's the way we're going to record it, as a record of this building. So we're not going to lie about the building as part of our building study. We've also got, purely by accident, we've got quite an artistically placed seagull up there in the sky. Again, it's not adding anything to the study of the building, but I'm going to leave it there. It's not doing any harm either, so we're going to leave it there. So what if you don't have the luxury of the time to hang around in coffee bars and cafes all day waiting for the sun to be in the right place? You've always got the option to take your picture on a dull day, on a cloudy day. And cloudy days sort of have their merit, but you can see the difference between the two. We've really lost that sort of vibrance, that texture in the building. But if it's the only option you've got, then it still tells us what we need to know about that building as a study. In fact, dull days can be a friend. They've got some advantages. If we look at this little window up here, um, here's our picture of it on a dull day. If I take the same view from our sunny day picture, you can see we've got this quite distracting shadow across the top of the window there, and um, it's not too bad in this case, but that can be a real issue if you're photographing um, things like uh, buildings with thatch roofs with overhanging eaves, or lots of buttresses and projections. Then shadows can be a real nuisance. So don't write off a dull day. A dull day can be a good opportunity. One of the hazards, though, one of the risks of shooting on a dull day is there's less light, and so the camera shutter is going to need to be open for a longer period to let enough light into the camera to get a decent exposure. And that raises the risk of camera shake. And you get this, I've exaggerated this effect really to just to illustrate it, but the camera has moved, or either the camera or the building has moved during the time that the shutter's open. Well, I'm pretty sure it's not the building, because that's been there for a few hundred years. So there's been a bit of vibration, bit of movement in the camera there, and you get this sort of blurring effect. I'm sure some of you will go back to the days of analog television. You had this effect called ghosting, where you were picking up signals from more than one transmitter. It looks a bit like that. It's sort of quite a distinctive look to it, and it's very, very difficult to do anything about. The solution is to put the camera on a tripod. And here's the same shot, and the only difference between those two shots is the camera there is on a tripod, nice and stable, and you just get rid of that camera shake. Cameras have got, most modern digital cameras, and I think smartphones as well, have got a thing built into them called image stabilization. And this is a gross oversimplification. I think probably a camera expert or camera manufacturer would hang me out to dry for simplifying it to this extent. But if we look at a camera there, we've got the camera body and the lens on the front, and we've got the sensor in behind there, or in the case of a film camera, the film. And what this image stabilization does is, quite simply, if the camera moves that way, the sensor moves that way to compensate. So, gross oversimplification, but can be a very handy technique. But for me, it doesn't sort of replace putting the camera on a tripod. Tripod gives you this is great for if you're doing travel photography or walking around a city or something. You don't want to be sort of popping a tripod up every time you stop and take a photo. But it's if you're in a measured, considered situation, then a tripod is always better. I did discover something a couple of years ago, actually, that if you put the camera on a tripod, the advice is to turn off the image stabilization, because it can actually cause the very effect that it's trying to avoid. So tripod if at all possible. So there's our shot of the castle. Now, I'm not going to, if we're doing a recording in this building, I'm not going to just take that one shot. I'm probably going to want to have separate views of these two side elevations here. So let's go and take a look at that. We're going to look at the left-hand one. I've moved around now and taking a separate shot of that, and we've caught this at quite a nice time. You can see we've got some nice sort of shadow down the side of these buttresses here, just sort of emphasizing the shape, giving a bit of depth to them. We've also got, so we've got that shot. We might also want to look at down here. We've got a little little arrow loop window. That might be something that we want to record and put into a report of this building. So I need a detailed shot of that. Now there's two ways I can do it. There's a lazy way. I can just crop it from that main image, and most sort of devices, computers, Windows computers or tablets have got a filter viewing sort of app where you can crop an image. So I can crop that down and just take out that little bit and enlarge it. And it kind of works, but you can see, I've sort of really cropped that image down severely, and it starts to look a bit fuzzy around the edges. That we've sort of thrown away most of the information in that photograph there and spread what's left over a wider canvas, if you like. So at that point, I'm going to probably zoom in with my lens or change lens, whatever, and take a shot just to that area. And we can see we've got a lot more detail and a lot more texture in there now. So we're going to take, and we're going to do that for any sort of feature of interest on this building. We're going to take some general views and then some details of the bits that we really want to study and include in our analysis. This elevation over here is a little bit more tricky. You can see we've got this, anybody that knows the site, there's this magnificent tree there, and I've actually taken a picture just so I've waited for the leaves to come off this tree. So I've gone back just a couple of weeks ago and taken this shot. I didn't even try it back in the summer because you can see you wouldn't have seen much of the building. You'd have pretty much obscured by the tree. So you might have to to do a full treatment of this building, you might have to wait for leaves to fall and things like that if you've got trees nearby. Trees can be they can be useful if you want to get a bit artistic. You can use them to sort of frame features and get more of an artistic feel to it. But they're not really helping us in terms of a building survey. So that was one respect with the leaves there, where time of year might be important, but there's probably a more fundamental aspect of time of year. And I'm going to go to another building now. This is Gray's Almshouse. It's just not too far along the road from the castle that we were at there. It's a brick building built by a local lad made good, Robert Gray, in 1635, and it was built as almshouses. And there's a photo of the full frontage of the place. If you look at the orientation of it, it's facing pretty much north. And I'd really like to get a shot. If you see that shot there, it's in shade, so looking a bit dull and flat. I'd really like to get a picture with the sun on the front of that building. You can see it's pretty much facing north, and on the opposite side of the road, opposite side of the street there, you've got a number of commercial buildings, 2- and 3-story commercial buildings, which are quite tall. So if I want to get a shot with the sun on the front of that building, then the sun either needs to be around here in the northeast or around here in the northwest. And you can see straight away that's not going to happen in the winter. So we need to be out in the summer to this, and pretty near to midsummer. And the sun's got to be around in that position and high enough to clear these tall buildings on the other side of the road. When I first started looking at this 2 or 3 years ago, and I was interested in these chimneys. This building's got these lovely pairs of chimneys sort of set diagonally to the front of the building, and I really wanted to get a shot. And this has been a bit picky, but I really wanted to get a shot where you can see what's happening here. The right hand chimney is sort of throwing a shadow on the left hand one, and I really wanted to get a situation where both of those chimneys were pretty much in full sun. So again, the sun needed to be, either around there or around there. So I've gone out very early in the morning. This is, I don't know why I was up at that hour, but I was out at 5:10. This is 2 or 3 years ago. Again, round about midsummer, so sort of early July, and you can see we've already got the sun's going round, starting to go round. We've got the left-hand chimney is throwing a shadow on the right-hand one, but we've still got the front of the building pretty much in shadow there. You've got the shadow of the buildings across the road. So not great, not ideal. Um, I've come back and I didn't let it go. I was sort of prompted to go back again this year and have another look. So I've gone back at the other end of the day. So the sun is round in the west now and looking a lot better actually. We've got uh, both faces of the chimneys there pretty much well illuminated. You can see down at the bottom here, we've got a little shadow creeping in as the sun's dipping behind the buildings across the road, but looking quite nice. We've got quite nice even lighting across the front of the building. But if we stand back now, you can see, yeah, you can see the chimneys there pretty much exposed to the sun. So liking that. So I've gone back now and tried to do that sort of full shot of the front, and we've got okay, but we've got 2 or 3 issues there. We've got over at the right hand end, the building next to it sort of sticks out quite a way into the road beyond the front there. So it's casting this nasty bit of shadow down here. In the middle here, we've got a lamppost, which is casting with hanging baskets on, casting a shadow over there. And over at this end, annoyingly with this one, there's a parking space just there, and more often than not, there's a car in that parking space. So nice lighting, but there's still a few issues troubling us there. I've got another shot of it, but so you can see there the effect of the sort of that warmer evening light on the front of the building, and I really wanted to portray this building in a way that sort of reflects its ethos. It's almshouses. It was a place of warmth and generosity, and I prefer that the upper shot there. It does sort of more reflect that warmth. The bottom one is a little bit more flat and dark and forbidding, really. But I found probably a better situation. I went out. This was another morning. This was just before midsummer, and we had sort of thin, high cloud in the sky, and that gives a very nice light. So you can see we've got nice light on the front of the building there, and we've got shadows, but very soft, very subtle shadows. So they're not really disrupting us too much there. So I'm liking that. The only problem with that is you'll notice I haven't got the whole of the front of the building there. That's because there was a massive van parked in that parking space. So so what I really want is to find a time when there's nice high cloud in the sky early in the morning and nothing in that parking space. So maybe I'll go back next summer and give that a try. If I was doing a study of this building, there's some various other features that I want to look at. There's these various plaques and interesting doors and windows there and again, just like we did with that little loop window at the castle, I'd want to take some detailed shots of those. But I'm at that point, I think a point of etiquette comes in. This is a residential building now. It's managed by Taunton Heritage Trust, and people live there. So, I don't want to be out early in the morning pointing a long lens at people's windows. So if I was going to go back and do that sort of detail, then I want to do that with some endorsement of the owners and custodians of this building. So there is a point at which to not be too intrusive. I did, however, took this photo away and took it home, loaded it up on the computer, and took a look in detail at it, and noticed some interesting detail. And particularly, there's a sort of looks to be a bit of a disturbance in the brickwork over here, just in that area. And I've just sort of enlarged that area, zoomed in on it, and you can see something going on with the brickwork there. But it's again just like with that little window. Because I've cropped this from a big image, it's got a bit fuzzy around the edges, so you can't really see what's going on. So I did go back and take a more detailed shot just of that area of brickwork there, and it throws up some interesting things. You can see some. There we are. So we've got it over there. You can see some areas there where there are straight joins in the brickwork where the brickwork's not sort of stitched or bonded or overlapped, and that's very often an indication that there's been some alteration or modification to the building. So it prompted me to do a bit of research and reading into this building, and this is some information I found on the website of Taunton Heritage Trust, who are the custodians of this building now. And it tells us that although the building was built by Thomas Gray in 1635, he was this local philanthropist. It says down at the bottom there that partly due to legal problems, I'm guessing that means they ran out of money, and the English Civil War, there was a section that was not completed until some 60 years later, until 1696. And that, just standing back looking at that general shot then, there's a bit of evidence there that seems to square with it as well. In this same piece on the website, it said that the original buildings were to house 10 women, a chapel and schoolroom. Well, if you look over on the right hand end here, we've got 6 pairs, so we've got 12 chimneys, so that that could square with 10 rooms plus the schoolroom and the service area. And the eastern section that was built later to house 6 men. Well, over here on this side we've got 6 chimneys, so it does seem to sort of stack up with that building being extended towards the east. So maybe what we're looking at here is that way is 1635, that way is 1696, and right down the middle there is the English Civil War. So it's just an example of the sort of sort of detailed analysis, the sort of forensics that you can get from a building just by looking at a good, detailed, clear photograph. A better way around would have been to have done the research before I'd gone and photographed the building, and I might have sort of spotted that at the time and been able to get that detail. So I'm going to come on now to another subject, perspective, and it's another important thing to consider when we're photographing buildings. And invariably, if we're photographing a building, it's going to be taller than us, and we're having to point the camera up to photograph the building, and that gives rise to a problem. The top of the building is further away from the camera, from the lens, and the bottom. So the top section of the building, the top half, looks smaller in the frame compared to the bottom, and it gives this familiar impression that the building is leaning over backwards. And you see it all over the place. I was looking on the BBC news website yesterday, and there's a picture of the Houses of Parliament leaning over backwards, and it's quite easy to avoid. A number of techniques for avoiding this. So I'm just going to look at a few of them. And the first one, we don't need to dwell too much on this. This is more the sort of preserve of professionals. You can get a thing called a perspective control or tilt shift lens, and it does exactly what it says on the tin. There's the camera body with the lens on the front. You've got the sensor or the film in there, and you can either tilt or shift the lens in relation to the body of the camera, and without going into a load of physics, that sort of distorts the image falling on the sensor there, and it can correct this perspective distortion, this backward lean. So the pretty much the preserve of professionals, or at least serious enthusiasts. They're quite expensive and quite rare. I don't think you can even. I haven't got one. I don't think you can even get one for my particular camera. Fortunately, though, there are a number of other things that we can do to address this problem. So we'll take a look at those. I'm sort of going to look at these sort of in order of preference, if you like. So the first thing we can do is try to find a higher viewpoint so that the camera's not tipping up as much. So here's an example. Here's one of Dunster's fine buildings, and took this picture some years ago when we were studying this building. And I've taken the picture from down in the road, just the other side of the road there. And it's quite a narrow road, so you've got to be pointing the camera up quite significantly to capture the building and to fit it all in the frame. So that picture on the right there is taken from a spot down about there. Now behind me there's a wall, and behind that wall there's a garden which is about only about 6 or 8 feet above street level there. And a couple of years later we were surveying the building, the house that garden belongs to, and the owner very kindly allowed me to step out into the garden and take some pictures across the road. So I've gone out and taken a picture from up there, and the difference is, so as you can see, the camera is much more level now, and the result is quite striking. So everything else about those two shots is the same. It's the same camera, the same lens, set to the same focal length, but in that case, just by getting that bit of height, that building is much more upright. There's an interesting little bit though in that first shot. You can see a sign down there, and normally I would have moved that sign out of the way while I took the shot and then put it back where it was after I finished. But look at that sign, it says COVID-19, keep your distance. And I thought, if you'd stumbled across like a medieval drawing or a medieval sketch of that scene, and there was a sign there that said, "Venture ye not here, for ye plague doth prevail," then you'd probably think you'd stumbled across something quite special. So ideally, I'd like an upright picture of that building with the COVID sign in. But this one here, as I say, was taken 2 or 3 years later, and so I'm not going to paste the sign in there. I can't lie about it, but there may be something we can do about it. Let's see. So that's getting a higher viewpoint. What if you can't get a higher viewpoint? And not all situations conveniently have a garden behind them or a wall that you can get up behind. Another option is to move away from the subject. So here's our Leaning Tower of Taunton again. And I've taken that first shot there, the one on the left, is taken from a point down about there, down sort of roughly where that traffic cone is down there. What about if I move back up the street? And we're lucky in this situation, there's a long straight road leading down to it. So I've moved back to a position here, and now zoomed in and taking a shot just of that tower. So you because I'm further back, I'm not having to tilt the camera so much. And there's a result. We've got pretty much the same view of the tower, but much more upright. And because we filled the frame with the tower, got the same amount of detail in there. It's just got a different perspective, so you just see the buildings creeping on either side, but it's not detracting from our main subject. So what if you can't move back and you can't move up? There's still a trick up our sleeves, because we can, from our close-up position, we can point the camera downwards. So there's our leaning tower again. Point the camera downwards, so get it much more level. And you need to zoom out so you could fit the whole of that tower in. But you now get a shot that looks more like this. So in the top half of the frame there, we've got the tower, and in the bottom half, we've got my shadow there. Yeah, take the photo, don't be the photo, I guess. But it doesn't matter in this case, because we're now going to crop this image and just take the tower out there. And if we do that, again, we see we've got a much straighter, much more upright tower. There's a little bit of a downside to it, because I've cropped, you can see I've thrown away probably 80% of the resolution in that image. So it's going to be a bit more grainy, but as a general view there, that really doesn't matter. So it's a solution if, as I say, if you can't move back or get a higher viewpoint, then that's a solution, another solution. So those are what I would call optical solutions to the problem. If you can't get there with all of those, you've still got a trick up your sleeve. This is we can do some adjustments digitally. This is the sort of west facade of the Castle Gatehouse at Dunster. This is the building we surveyed, did a very comprehensive survey of this one as part of the Dunster project. And our dear departed friend Isabel Richardson, who was the main author of the report, wanted me to get a photo of that facade, that elevation, with all the windows in it, because the windows hold some quite significant clues as to the development of that building. So anybody that knows this location, the drive up to the gatehouse there is quite steep, and so the further you move back, if you try to move back, the further you move back, you're not really gaining anything, because the further you move back, the lower you're getting in relation to the building. Also, if you move back too far, you see you've got these trees on either side, so they're going to encroach and eventually obscure the very windows that you're trying to include. So to get this shot, I'm standing there. I've got the camera on a tripod, and the tripod is strapped very securely to the top of a 4-meter telescopic window cleaning pole. So you've got to improvise a bit with this stuff. And I've got the camera connected wirelessly. A very useful thing you can do with digital cameras is connect them wirelessly to a tablet or a smartphone. And the smartphone or the tablet then becomes both your viewfinder, so you can see exactly what the camera's seeing, and you've got control of the camera, so you can change the sort of key settings, and most importantly, you can actually press the shutter and take the photo. So I'm standing there with the photo with the camera aloft on the top of this pole, and I've got a colleague from the Dunster team beside me with my iPad, and if she's watching this, I'm sure she'll remember the occasion. And I'm looking over her shoulder at the iPad and just fine tweaking the position of the camera and saying, "Yeah, take the shot now." And that got us to that point. But we're still not very upright there. But we can. One of the good things about digital photography, one of the real benefits, is we can do some corrections now electronically on that. So I've loaded that image here into some photo processing software, and you don't have to go out and spend money on photo processing software. This is the free the photo viewer editor that's just bundled in with an iPad with the Apple operating system. So, and you've got various things you can do. You've got a little edit button down here, and you can make some adjustments to that image. And this is all, I'm guessing the world of Android and Google has got the same sort of stuff that you can tweak and edit an image. So if we go into that edit function, one of the options we've got here is to crop, and we've got the usual sort of normal sort of crop things that you can just move the sides of the frame in there and just crop out some of the image. But over on the right here, we've got some more adjustments. We've got some sort of geometric adjustments. So the top one there, you can rotate the image clockwise or anti-clockwise, and then you've got two sort of keystone shaped ones, and this whole effect is called keystone correction. And we can rotate the image sort of vertically or horizontally. So by using a sort of careful combination of those, and you've got to use these sort of iteratively. You can tweak one and then go back and tweak another and then go back and tweak the first one. But by doing that, so I've given it a bit of upright, and then a bit of sideways, and I think through in a bit of rotation, and we can get to a point where we've got that building nice and upright. So there we are, and there's our shot that we wanted, with the western face of that building looking nice and upright, and with all those windows included. Interestingly, I don't know if I'm sure some of you will have seen Cat Lodge's excellent webinar on hidden treasures of the National Trust a couple of months ago, and I was very interested in there. Cat included a photo which she's kindly agreed to me including here, and it's pretty much that scene, and it's got, you can see the tower and the gatehouse in the background there, and it's pretty much bolt upright. So I'm guessing that was done, and that's a photo from well over 100 years ago, and I guess that was done on one of these old sort of plate cameras where the lens extends on a bellows, and you can do exactly what we talked about with this tilt shift lens. You can move the lens up and down and tilt it. So there it was. There was a solution, long ago that was, probably better than we can do sort of today without resorting to some processing. So maybe progress is not always progress. So I can also use that then, going back to our building in Dunster, I can do a bit of correction there and achieve my aim of having a nice upright building there with the COVID sign-in. So maybe I'll archive that one away for a couple of 100 years, and somebody will come and look at it and say, oh, look, that must have been in the Great Plague of 2020. So just summarising all that then down to some key points, things to do before setting out to take to photograph some buildings. Useful to look at the orientation of the building, look at maps and these satellite images and street view and stuff like that you can do now. Look at how the building lies compass wise, and what buildings surround it, what's on the other side of the road. Think about the weather, and I'll say a nice condition is just sort of thin high cloud. Patchy cloud is great actually, because it's almost like you've got your own control over the light. Then you don't have to wait very long before a nice helpful patch of cloud comes along. So keep an eye on the weather. Not like I did with the almshouses there. Do some previous research because it's better to go out sort of knowing what you're looking for rather than to come back and look at your image and find, oh, there's a bit there that I need to investigate more closely. And not much you can do about it, but look around at parking spaces and what restrictions there might be on them, when there might be an opportunity to catch your shot without any traffic in that parking space. Then while you're photographing, just the key things: choose your viewpoints carefully, walk around the building, look at where's going to be the very best place to stand. Think about the light, use the light creatively to get the effect you want. And you're going to be taking some general views plus details. Fill the frame, if you want all the detail, then fill the frame with the bits you want. So you can zoom with the lens, and you can also zoom with your feet, just get closer to the subject. Use a tripod whenever you can. That's not always practical if you think about that narrow little street there in Dunster, which is actually, it's a narrow little street, but it's also a busy main road. There's no way I would sort of stand there probably with a tripod, but use it whenever possible. Be guided by your specialist. So when I'm out doing one of these shoots, just like we did with Isabel, rely on people that understand the architecture to tell you the bits that they want you to photograph. So if you're working as part of a team, keep in touch with the experts. Be prepared to go back several times. You don't always get everything you want in one visit. Think about the perspective and verticals, and most of all, experiment and have fun. Don't try to be too sort of prescriptive and structured about this. It's you learn most from experimenting and having some fun. So I started to finish off with some references. There's a very good book. It's published by Historic England. It's called Photographing Historic Buildings. There's a link there that will pop down into the chat. That's a very good reference and goes through the whole thing. Lots and lots of examples. Very, very good book and very readable. There's also, if you want some stuff about basic camera types and camera settings, there's a whole host of this. I just picked out one there from Jessop's, who you may remember as a camera retailer. They're mainly online now, but they've got some very good stuff and some crib sheets, cheat sheets they call them, with stuff about camera settings. Once you've done that, there's a very handy little thing called Camera Sim, which is a website, and there are various animations on there, and you can just dial in different sort of camera settings and zoom in and zoom out and look at the effect of those settings on the resulting image without actually going out and taking pictures. So it's good stuff for finding your way and practicing. So that's about all. So I'm going to now hand back to Lizzie.
Thanks, Tony. That was very much a subject after my own heart. I'm very keen on photography and particularly photographing buildings, which are a little challenge, aren't they? Yes, I thought it was very good. I like the idea of choosing one building and looking at it in different lighting conditions, because it really did highlight some of the real challenges of what you're trying to do. Especially, I think it was always terribly important to try to um, think about exactly what it is you're trying to take a photograph of before you start. Otherwise, and the conditions of lighting that you choose to take that photograph will make such a big difference. And I was interested, if I was looking at that building, I know that I would be very interested in the different sorts of stonework there. So you'd want to use a colour film to show up the different colours. But if you were looking for building structure, you'd want to see where there might have been a little bits of rebuilding, and
Yeah.
so you'd be looking for perhaps a bit more contrast there as well. It's
Yeah.
really quite,
I'm
yeah.
kind of learning when I started doing this stuff. I just went off and pointed the camera at anything that I thought was interesting and shot away. And it's gradually over time you get to sort of, particularly with the carpentry, I sort of got into that and sort of start to understand it now and know what I'm looking for really.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mhm.
Well, I started off doing black and white photography back in the
Mm.
1970s, and it was such an expensive business to do it. You had to be very, very careful about what you took photographs of because you,
Yeah.
you didn't have that many film bits of film.
Absolutely. That's a great discipline. It's too easy in the digital world just to shoot and shoot and shoot. And
Mm,
it's one of
yeah,
the good things about one of the side benefits of using a tripod as well is it makes you slow down and you know think
absolutely. That thing of
about it.
slowing down.
Yeah.
I'm going to show a little bit of showing off here because I brought out my old one of my cameras,
Mm.
which I thought you might be interested out
Cracking.
there in video
Yeah.
lounge to look at this. It's a Linhof camera. It's not that old actually. It's from about
Mm.
1970, but it is with a pair of bellows, and it takes
Yeah.
the most fantastic photographs. But by
Fabulous.
God, you don't have you take your time on
You're
this
not
one.
you're not going to throw away a plate, are you?
Oh no, it's a half plate size.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and and I can't quite remember how to make all the gadget bits work. I have taken photographs with it, and it's clear as a bell. It's
Yeah.
fantastic, but it demonstrates. You can see if I try and hold it up a little bit here, this bit will lift up and go
Yeah.
down again, and
Yeah.
so that's how you help
That's
sort
how
of
you do that perspective
rectify your
control stuff.
parallax.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, yeah,
Mm.
there we are, a bit of fun there. So we've
Yeah.
got some questions coming through
Okay.
here. Let me go back to them. Okay. Do you have a particular era of architecture that you enjoy taking photographs of most?
Not really. I guess with the work we've been doing in Dunster, then we're looking at sort of early medieval stuff mainly, but
Mm.
right back to those shots I started with from Brighton. It's modern architecture can give you some fabulous
Oh, yes.
opportunities for you know
It's
shape
designed for it, isn't it?
patterns. It is, yeah, yeah, and a bit of a brutalist doesn't go bad and doesn't go amiss either.
Yeah, nice in black and white.
Yeah.
Yeah, very nice.
Mm.
Um, I was quite interested in getting the copyright for photographing images because I
Mm.
think that the National Trust and Cat Lodge can help me out here. Is it gets quite upset if you take photographs of of their buildings,
Mm.
even from a public footpath.
Right, yeah. Yeah, it is this, it's this question of etiquette I think that I touched on
Mm,
with the almshouses there, and you've got to be really, respectful to the building and to its occupants.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
absolutely.
yeah, yeah. But yeah, it's a difficult area because it's it's sort of in the public domain. You get the same thing with people as well. And I know there's this genre of photography called street photography, where you just go out and sort of take pictures of people going about their business. And I'm myself, I'm not a great lover of that. I think
Quite
without any
intrusive, isn't
permission,
it?
it's quite intrusive. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We don't always want to be photographs.
yeah,
But it's a very sort of public life everybody lives these days. 5 minutes,
yeah,
and you're all over the world on
yeah.
social media. Yeah. And just as a matter of interest, did you sort of extend your interest at all to filmmaking when you were using camera technique?
No, no, I didn't. It's got all the function in there. You used to have a separate video camera, but now these cameras are got incredibly powerful video functions. But I don't know too much about video really.
Yeah, yeah.
So
We
what
did
what
try
is
some.
interesting, what I would like to find out more about is all we've talked about there is sort of two-dimensional stuff. I know there's technologies like 360-degree cameras and 3D imaging and stuff like that, which is becoming much more affordable and accessible. And that'd be really interested in seeing how that could help us with our building survey work.
Yeah, that can be quite good fun.
Mm,
Yeah, yeah, very good.
yeah.
Yeah, and well, yes. Do you know, has photography for building recording changed since the early cameras were in use? Well, I think we sort of talked about that a bit.
It,
Certainly
it,
about the parallax that you could have done
yeah.
with a big plate camera.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, what I'd say is it's got easier. And if you look at some of those archive slides that people like Commander Williams and Ron Gilson took, and if you think of the the conditions that they took those under, and it's 35 millimeter transparency. It's the most unforgiving format of all. You can't crop it. You've got no control over the processing, so you had to get it right.
Yes.
So yeah, yes, it's changed. It's got
Absolutely.
much
You remember
easier.
Fujifilm always came out green.
Yeah. We'll talk about that in the indoor session in April.
Yeah, slides are really
Yeah, yeah.
difficult, aren't they?
No,
And
it's
of course,
the stuff today is much more forgiving and much more flexible. So therefore it's a lot easier.
yeah, yeah, yeah. We could talk about archiving as well, because that's a
Yeah,
real problem.
yeah, yeah.
Certainly for recording
Mm,
things for historic purposes.
yeah.
Yeah, right. Well, I think we're getting towards the end. Is there anything else? Let's have a quick look and see if anybody's got any more questions. Yep, somebody said it was very educational, informative. Well done.
Okay.
I think that's been very helpful. Well done, Tony.
Yeah,
Of course,
it's
we
sort
can.
of scratched the surface really, but yeah.
Well, it's a good beginning, though, nice and straightforward. And of
Hmm.
course, we'll get it onto YouTube. So anybody who's seen it wants to have another review, we can see it up there, which would be really good.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, smashing.
Okay.
Okay, and very exciting because after all, Tony will be back in April, 30th of April, to do part two. So anybody who's out there listening down now, don't forget, Tony will be back to do. What are you doing in April? Indoors,
So
is
we're
it?
going indoors, and we'll end up, as I say, in the dark and dusty world of roof spaces, which is a whole different challenge.
Okay, brilliant. Right, we'll look forward to seeing you then. Thank
Okay.
you. Yeah, bye.
Bye.
Smashing. Well, that was really good fun and really interesting too. So we've got a few notices coming up now. It's going to be a busy old time. We've got a few more SANHS events. Don't forget, as I say, Tony's next talk on indoor photography. That'll be on the 30th of April next year. In the meantime, our next webinar will be in January. We like to have a little rest over Christmas time. Everybody else very distracted. So on the 22nd of January, we are very fortunate to have Tom Maybury back, who will be talking about the SANHS archives. Very wonderful new event for SANHS next week on the 27th of November in the morning. We're starting the SANHS Library Book Club, and that will be an opportunity for members certainly to try to get to know the SANHS Library a bit more intimately. So if you were interested in looking at the SANHS Library, please email the office SANHS. And we've got another event at the Wyndham Hall on the 4th of December when the Wyndham Picture House will be showing the film The Fairy. So that'll be good. 4th of December at 7 o'clock in the evening. Our associated societies are also going to be very busy over November and December. On Tuesday, the 25th, Martock History Group will be having a talk about history of phosphates in the Parrot Valley. The 26th, on Wednesday, the 26th, Harptrees History Society will be discussing recent archaeological finds from Somerset with Laura Beckwith, who does the Portable Antiquities Scheme. Okay, that was on the 26th of November. Also on the 26th of November, Tintinhull Local History Group will be having a talk about Langport's Great Bow Wharf and the local trade that it generated. And that, of course, will be Janet Seaton. 26th of November. 27th of November, told you it was a busy week. That's Thursday. The Bath Literary and Scientific Society will be talking about the chalk landscape of Stonehenge, Avebury, Dorchester, and Cranbourne Chase, which is another one that sounds absolutely fascinating. Again, on the 27th, South Petherton are busy. South Petherton Local History Group are having a talk on the West African Preventative Squadron. Okay. And on the 29th, that's a Saturday, November the 29th, Frome Society for Local History will be having a talk about Bath's Second World War heritage inscription as one of UNESCO's great spa towns of Europe. Okay, well, that sees us up through to the end of November. Don't forget, we won't have another webinar until the new year now, and that'll be with Tom Maybury. So thank you all for being here. Thank you to the webinar team, Allan, Hattie and Nathanael, not Tony tonight. And we hope you will all have a great Christmas, and we'll see you next year on the 22nd of January. Bye-bye.